Thank you, Gemma. Thank you very much. I want to just say hi to everyone on this call. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I just want to let you guys know I miss all of you. I think about you guys all the time, and I'm just glad to help out and do this presentation. So I want this to be interactive as well. So I don't just want to do all the talking. I want to ask you guys questions and see what you know about elder abuse. So the first question I'm going to bring up to everyone is, what is elder abuse?
What is what?
Elder abuse.
Abuse?
Elder abuse, yeah.
Well, it could be when somebody is living with you and they hit you or verbally abuses you verbally.
Absolutely, yes, definitely.
And that's one of the biggest, so I'm sorry, and some of that's one of the biggest abuse because they don't leave any mark, but the person gets marked. When they hit you, sometimes they leave bruises. So verbal abuse is very, very bad.
Yeah, verbal abuse is definitely, I'm glad you brought that up. Verbal abuse is definitely one of them. So that's absolutely correct. Absolutely. And also you mentioned physical as well.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very true. Does anyone have any other thoughts? Anna?
Hello?
Physical.
Yeah,
Physical
hello?
abuse.
Can you hear me?
Sorry. Anna's going to go first, then you, Virginia. Okay?
Yes.
This is Lorraine.
Say that again.
I said, this is Lorraine.
Oh, hi, Lorraine. How are you?
Hi. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So Lorraine, Lorraine, I'm going to let Anna speak first because she actually raised her hand. And then Lorraine, you can make a comment, okay?
Okay.
Perfect. Anna?
Yes, it's very common to hear about bullying in between children, but there is bullying to the elderly.
Yes.
And it comes from a lot of different sources. It comes from outside, it comes from the family, and then you don't realize till you feel the pressure. And you have to stop it because there is bullying and that's abuse. That's an elderly abuse.
Absolutely. That's great. Good point, Anna.
Mm-hmm.
Lorraine, you wanted to mention something?
I was just going to mention that you can be mentally abused too, because if you're trying to get something from a person that's working for you and they totally ignore you, and to the point that you get upset, and you know that they're doing it on purpose, that's abuse too. They don't have to be touching you or anything like that, but that you can have some mental abuse too, where people can get on your nerves when they know they're doing it, and that's a form of abuse.
That's a good point, Lorraine. Mental is that is a huge part of abuse. Absolutely. Did anyone else have any other comments they wanted to share? Or
I do, Virginia.
Oh, okay, Denise, then Virginia, okay?
Okay.
Denise?
Oh, yeah, no, I was just going to say people who prey on the elderly, like scam artists and phone calls and things like that, I consider that abuse as well.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Virginia?
Yes, dear. The cold shoulder after an argument, and it would touch on the ignorance of the person. But a cold shoulder right after an argument, like if you have a question that you wanted to ask before, but you had the argument to pass by in place of the argument. There's nothing worse than the cold shoulder, and then you ask the person, such and such, and they won't speak back. That's
mental
elder abuse. That's elder abuse. That's very abusive.
That is mental abuse. Yes, Virginia, absolutely. Yes, that's a good point. Any other thoughts from anyone else?
Financial abuse.
Yes, that's very true. Financial, definitely.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, I think you guys covered pretty much all of them. You made my job easier. But yeah, I mean, financial is definitely a big one. Mental abuse, emotional abuse, obviously physical abuse. You know, there are many different types of abuse. So did anybody
And
want to say
why
anything
the
else?
elderly? Why the elderly? You know, why in God's name the elderly? Why? Can't understand
You
that.
know, it's all ages. It's with the babies, with children, with teenagers. They go through the same thing we go through, but we don't have as many out to call child protection up like that. Who can we call when we're being abused?
Well, that's something we're going to go into, Lorraine. I'm glad you asked that question. We're going to go into that because, you know, child abuse and elder abuse, child abuse and elder abuse are different because,
Mhm.
you know, abuse for a child is different because children, you know, they're minors, and for the most part, they really can make their own decisions. But we'll talk about that. So I'm glad you brought that up, Lorraine.
Okay.
Did anybody else have any other thoughts?
Support when you're looking for an apartment and no one in the family wants to help you because they don't want you moving out. No support. That's an abuse. No support.
Right, that's a part of it, absolutely. All right, so I'm actually gonna just now go into like a definition from the World Health Organization. Okay, so the World Health Organization defines elder abuse as a single or repeated act
Yeah, hold on.
or lack of appropriate action occurring within any relationship where there is an expectation of trust which causes harm or distress to an older person. So that's like how
It's huge.
Say
That's
that
a
again?
very, that's a huge definition of the word abuse. There's a wide range that can go with that.
Absolutely, yes. And I think what they were trying to do is just have one like single sort of definition that kind of ties everything together.
Yeah,
They
it
didn't really
did.
go into the specifics of the different types of abuse. But all of you mentioned different types of abuse. And I just want to mention elder abuse is the mistreatment of an older adult over the age of 60 from someone that they have a trusting relationship with. And the types of abuse are what you all mentioned: physical abuse, psychological abuse, financial. And well, another one is neglect and abandonment. So I
Didn't
just
hear
want to
that. Whoa, didn't hear that. What?
neglect and abandonment.
Ah, yes.
Okay, so that happens quite frequently. You know, there's situations where someone, you know, their needs are not being met. Maybe their family members are not even aware, like they need to be giving them medication and you know, things like that happen. You know, or they're left alone by family members. No one's taking care of them.
Rachel, you see that in the streets of New York, all these people with their legs off, and all when they have their legs on, all, how do you say, swollen and black and blue because of the weather. You see it all over the city in Manhattan, right here.
Yeah.
That's abuse too. What did you say?
Neglect and abandonment
through the family, or unless they do it themselves and they live alone.
Absolutely. Well, you're bringing up some good points. I just want to emphasize, I'm going to ask the group, because you did bring up a good point. Who are more likely to abuse an older adult? Who would you think?
Your husband?
A home attendant?
Yeah, someone said husband. Somebody also said home attendant.
Yes.
Grandchildren.
Yes.
A lot,
Excellent. Who said grandchildren?
Anna.
Yes. Grandchildren, and then what about anyone else you could think of?
Hey, yes,
A
sisters
spouse?
and brothers, sisters and brothers,
Yes.
cousins, cousins.
Who else? Very close grandchildren.
Your spouse could be abusing.
Say that again?
Your spouse.
I said,
Spouse, yes, spouse, we mentioned spouse.
Mhm.
What other group of family member? Some, very close to grandchildren.
The children.
Yes,
In-laws.
yes, yes. Children and grandchildren are the most prevalent, they're the ones that, you know, are the more likely to be the abusers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why do you think that's the case?
Because
They're so
they
connected.
think they entitled to, because a person may not be in their full thoughts like they used to be, and they let them get what they want, so they take advantage and keep coming back for more and more and more. And the senior does not know how to say no, or afraid to say no to the person that's asking for whatever they're asking for. They really have to do it.
Absolutely. That great points, Lorraine. What you're saying, exactly. It's very hard because, you know, you love your children, you love your grandchildren, you trust them, you're not expecting them to take advantage of you, you want to help them. So all the points you brought up are accurate. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's really important for people just to keep in mind. Children and grandchildren are really the main, I mean, definitely spouses, it's as well. But with older adults, it does tend to be children and grandchildren. Now, why do you think it's children or grandchildren? I mean, I think I asked, but I just want to get another perspective.
The generation gap.
A generation gap? Okay. Someone said something?
The education.
Education?
Yeah, the children are well educated, and they figure the grandma and grandpa don't go to the schools, and they don't even have a diploma that they went to school at all, or things like that.
That's an interesting point. Okay. Any other thoughts?
The permissive parents that don't allow them to do that to their parents. Because
Yes.
there is no respect at all. And they think, oh, it's a joke. Oh, they are kidding with you.
finish.
And
I
that's
know
very
that.
permissive.
What happened, you fell?
Oh, no, I had surgery on my ankle.
Absolutely. Yes. That's something I'm glad you brought that point, Maritza. It's definitely permissive parents, grandparents, just allowing, you know, the child or the grandchild to do whatever they want. Okay. So everybody has really great points. So let me just go back.
I had two things that I want to remark in here. I have a case from a couple, 80 something, and the woman has 71 years old. They are 15 years of married, 50 years of married, and he is abusing her mentally. And she told me that is happened, that she never report that to the police. It has been many years of abuse. And the thing is, now that person is very sick at the hospital, the husband, the abuser. And she is in the middle, like what to do. Stay with him because he's very sick, or separate with him.
This is her time to revenge.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
She's very religious person.
Oh, really? They're going to
Yeah,
blame
and
she's very dependent. A lot of people are abused because they are very dependent. That's why
Yes.
they so
Yes, yes,
no,
yes.
That's a good
independent
point.
people. Mhm.
So Maritza, what I want to ask you is how long has he been abusive to her?
she said many years, all the
Probably since they got married.
yeah, and now at this point of her life is that she decided to separate from him.
Wow.
And,
That's,
and she have a handicapped child, you know, disabled child. He's 23, but she is responsible for this child. And it's very difficult to find a place for both of them.
it's very difficult. Are you working with Carter Burden?
Yes, I received the information today with that, and I gonna connect them to.
Yeah, that's tough. That's hard. And then it's the two of them, and he's disabled. So that's probably
Yeah.
the reason she stayed in the marriage.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not easy to decide you're gonna leave your
No.
husband.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's a very strange case, and one of her daughter is helping her and keeping her in her house, but still she had children, she had husband, and then she feel like she's bothered her. You know, some parents are very like they feel bad when they had to use or bother their children,
Yeah.
especially at
Yes.
that age. Like I know they don't like it. I know they want to do this because my present there, they don't do it. Things like that.
Yeah, and that makes them more vulnerable too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hi, Albert.
Rachel, if I may,
Yes,
Virginia.
yes, Virginia.
The image of children, rather grandchildren, and what was it you said? Grandchildren and some other
Children and grandchildren are the most
children and
common. Yes.
grandchildren. The image that they have to hold with their friends, they're very, how do you say, they're very hard on the grandmother because they hold an image to their friends. You understand what I mean? They don't want to seem weak to their friends. They want to have the power in order to keep up with things, and that's why they're so horribly abusive with the grandparents.
That's an interesting point, Virginia, because yeah, there are people, that may be one of the reasons why maybe, the younger children are doing that. Maybe it's peer pressure. I mean, it could be anything. It's many, and I'm going to kind of go into that, like what causes people to do this. So you're kind of bringing us into a good kind of transition. Before we do that, though, I just want to mention something very, very quickly. Elder abuse is very much underreported. Most people that are, living with abuse, live with abuse for many, many years. And it's only reported, like, I'm just looking here. Elder abuse actually happens 24 more times than it's actually reported.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like 1 in 24 that it's reported. So just to let you guys know, like before I worked at Stanley Isaacs, I worked at Department for the Aging. I worked in the elder abuse unit at Department for the Aging. So I, dealt with elder abuse, throughout the whole city. And, we used to get referrals, and most of the referrals that we got were through 311. And it was family members who were concerned. It was friends, it was neighbors, it could have been social workers. It was very rarely ever the person themselves. I could probably count on one hand how many times a person actually called or made a referral for themselves. it's usually someone else who recognizes what's going on, or they suspect what's going on and they're worried and they're concerned. And it could even be brother calling against a sister, or sister calling against a brother, or whatever it is. But very, very, very unlikely that someone who is being abused is going to actually make that report. So I just want you all to keep that in mind. You know, because I do want to also talk a little bit about, you know, how do we handle these type of situations? What if we suspect that, you know, someone is being abused? What if we know, a lot of times people know, but they don't know what to do. So we're going to get into that. But I just want to bring up, because you guys are bringing up really great points, I just want to mention to you some of the risk factors for elder abuse, because I think that's important to know. And some of you have mentioned different ones. So one of them, and especially because of COVID, you know, we've all been sort of, you know, restricted, and we haven't been going out as much, and, you know, things have been very, very different. So like people living together, that definitely increases the chances of elder abuse. And that's been, and actually just to let you all know, elder abuse has definitely increased since the pandemic. Okay, so that's just something to be aware of. So shared living environment, social isolation, you know, not having a lot of family support or friends, you know, being by yourself. Low economic status plays a role. Dependence, which I think one of you mentioned, people being dependent. Lack of support. Emotional distress. A previous history of abuse, which I know, you know, Maritza mentioned that, and unresolved family issues and trauma. So those are all the different reasons why elder, you know, these are factors that contribute to elder abuse. Okay, just for all of you to be aware. Now I want to ask everyone, what type of issues do you think an abuser has in their life?
Come again, Rachel? I didn't understand the question.
What kind of issues, what kind of problems do you think someone who's abusing a senior may have?
That they're sick
They may have
themselves. That they are mentally sick themselves and are in denial.
Yes. Yes.
Or if they
And
feel,
Albert said previous abuse. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
if they feel they're overwhelmed by what they're dealing with before they get to work. I'm talking about people that go to work, not just family members, people that take care of people. Whatever issues they have before they come to work, they bring it on the job and take it out on the patient.
Yeah, so like you mean like home attendants and people who take care of patients. Yes.
Yes,
that's true.
I think that it's a shame that seniors are basically, I think, I may be wrong, they have less people to talk to than any other age. They don't have the, you know, the psychiatrist or social work. They don't have the mental abilities like other groups have. You know, the access to, if I was to see, I'm a senior, I go to the hospital and ask for help to see a therapist because I'm having issues. First thing you're going to tell me, oh, there's a long waiting list. They will not pick me first because of my age. They would take a teenager or somebody first. And that's a big problem. A lot of seniors are stuck in these apartments and very depressed, very lonely. It was the hardest thing for me when I went door to door with a person that was running for the council to replace Ben Taylor. And the people that I saw, they were just so overwhelmed to want the center open and somebody to talk to. That's so important. They don't have that many people to talk to as far as services go. And I think it's trouble.
Those are really great points. That's definitely a huge issue, like access to mental health, especially for older adults. You're absolutely right. That is a huge
Yeah.
issue, absolutely. Um, Maritza, you had a question or a comment?
Yes, I want to comment that I have a lot of my clients having issue with the home attendant. Once because the shortage in the agencies, no one want to work with the pandemic, and they had shortage in the agency, and the seniors pay the consequences because when they ask to change the home attendant because they are abusing them, like some of them don't do anything, just in the phone all day testing. Another say, no, I don't gonna help you. And they complain and told me all those things. And I say, let's go to the agency and complain to them that this person is not doing their job. And they say, oh no, because, at the end they say, we don't have anyone to send you. It's better to have her that rather you go to the supermarket or have nobody to come here because there is no personnel available. And yeah, that's terrible. And a lot of people suffering for that because
Yeah.
also they don't know how to change it for another agency. Sometimes they say, oh, my insurance only pay this agency because it's an in-house agency, and they don't have anywhere to go, and they suffer in silence and don't say anything because they don't know how to fix the problem with the home attendant. And they say, I prefer this one rather to have nothing.
Yeah, that's a great point, Maritza. That's very, very true. That's so common that, especially people that live alone. I remember when I was at Isaacs, we had our members who were by themselves and they had situations with aides and their home attendants, and it was hard for them because they didn't want to, obviously it wasn't safe for them to be alone. So they really were dependent on them. So that's really great points. So I just want to mention, let me just go back here. So I just want to mention, you mentioned mental illness. That's definitely a characteristic of an abuser. Also, definitely substance abuse. So anybody who's addicted to drugs or alcohol, they're more than likely going to be an abuser. I think someone also mentioned dependency. Yes. And that's all tied together, the person being, dependent on the older adult because maybe they don't work. And unfortunately with the pandemic, a lot of people have lost their jobs, and people had to move in together. I mean, we would hear situations of, people moving in with their parents again, or their mom, their dad, or whoever it is. And, that can lead to abuse. So definitely that plays a role, unemployment. And also another factor, which I think kind of Maritza brought up as well, is taking care of the senior, like caregiver stress. Because someone might be taking care of, let's say, their mom, and it's too much for them. They're too overwhelmed and they don't know what to do. And they start becoming abusive to that parent or grandparent. So that's another factor too.
Totally true. And I have another case that the daughter is an alcoholic. She doesn't work, but she is stealing the money from the mother that only receive like a $300 or $400 monthly, and she take that money to drink. And now her grandchildren come to home, take her room, and left her out of the apartment. And she's the one who paid the rent and do everything for them. And she was calling me crying, like she doesn't have a place anymore to live.
So where is she now?
She is with a relative in Queens, but her lease is here in NYCHA in Manhattan.
So they took over her NYCHA apartment.
Yes.
And they're not on
the
the lease.
grandchild
They're
is,
not on the lease, right?
no, they are. The
Oh, they
daughter,
are.
the daughter is in the list, but the grandchild, I don't know if he is on the list, but he is a delinquent now, in he's not studying, he's 19, no studying, smoking marijuana and doing nothing, and he stay with her mother now, and she's drinking alcohol. And I called the police one time because she was aggressive, but the daughter is not my client. My client is her mother. But now I don't know what to do. The brother says that he's gonna take her to Dominican Republic again because she's suffering here with that daughter and the grandchild.
Wow, that's really, I mean, that's like what you're saying is very, very typical. You know, people, and the thing is, you know, that I just want people to understand that elder abuse doesn't discriminate. So it happens in every race, every group,
Yeah.
whether you're
That's right.
rich, whether you're poor, you know,
That's
they'll
right.
steal someone's SSI check, or if they have someone who's a multi-millionaire, they'll steal from them. So it doesn't matter what your economic background really is. It's just as long as that person has access to you,
Yeah.
you know, they can take advantage.
And the worst thing is that she told me, please, Marisa, don't call the police anymore. Please, please don't do that. My daughter is mad at me. Now she doesn't talk to me because you called the police. She still forget her and don't want to do anything against her.
Yeah. It's hard. It's very tough. I mean, it's tough. I mean, you know, because this is family, like you just said, this is her daughter. So it's really, really hard, you know, to have someone go against their daughter. It's really, the average person, it really takes a lot.
They don't file complaint because it's
Yeah.
family. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. But Moritz, you're bringing up very good, these are very typical. I mean, there's really no typical elder abuse case. They're all very, very different. But I mean, your examples are really showing exactly what goes on in elder abuse, the power dynamic, you know, that the person doesn't, you know, have substance abuse issues, or they don't have any money, they're not working. Just one thing I wanted to bring up, because, you know, the pandemic has changed so many things for all of us.
Yeah.
So, you know, one of the things, there was a study I was just looking at, and they were saying that according to the study, there's been a huge increase in elder abuse. They did a study, and 1 in 5 subjects were actually victims of elder abuse in this study. 1 in 5.
Wow.
And the issue, the reason why this is really happening is financial issues, because again, like I mentioned before, people have lost their jobs, they're unemployed, you know, so a lot of it is financial, and people are moving in together, living together, because they can't afford housing or whatever the issue may be. Like you mentioned, these family members moved into her apartment and threw her out. Like that happens, that's common. That's definitely real. That's definitely real. Yeah. Does anybody have any other thoughts?
Yes.
What are we supposed to do about, are there specific limits that you call for a specific kind of abuse? To get help?
Lorraine, you're ahead of me. That's great. Lorraine, you're ahead of me. So no, that's what I want to bring up with you. So I'm just going to give different examples. So I know when I worked at Department for the Aging, we got a lot of calls through 311. So people definitely have the option of calling any one of you. Like I'm going to use you, Lorraine, as an example. Lorraine, let's say you had a neighbor that you suspected was being abused, right? You called 311, and you can like literally make a report anonymous. You don't even have to give them your name. You don't have to. You could just say, you know, I have a neighbor next door. I'm worried about, they're older. You know, I think the son is yet cursing her out. I think he steals her money. And then what would happen is they would write a report, and then usually what happens is it's referred to the New York City Department for the Aging, where I used to work, the elder abuse unit.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they look into these cases, and when, you know, let's say the person is actually lives by Stanley Isaacs. A lot of times they'll refer to an agency called Carter Burden, which I mentioned, Maritza, and they deal with elder abuse. They have elder abuse social workers, so they actually can, you know, help the senior, whoever it is. They can give them support, they can give them resources. But what I do want to say is this. What I do want to say is that, and I think this came up, and I don't know if it was you, Lorraine, but somebody was talking about children. And I just want to say the point is that children and adults are different. As long as you are able to make your own decisions, and all of you on this call can do that, then you have the right to say, I don't want help. You have the right to make your own decisions. So you may know someone who's being abused, but if they don't want to cooperate, they have every right not to cooperate. No one can force anything to be done. So I just want to mention that, so you have an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Also, Rachel.
Yes.
Also that these abusers have no way of obtaining any financial qualification, you know, like ID cards and things like that to get the for apartments and their social security income, and they have no qualifications whatsoever. So therefore, they abuse of the older persons that are qualified, that have it made, so to speak, quote unquote, by having an apartment and receiving financial support.
That's true. I mean, that goes back again to financial abuse. That usually it's because the person has very low income. They don't have it. They may not be working, or if they do, they don't, you know, they're maybe getting minimum wage, and they're taking advantage of the older person. You know, they can't find a place to live. They can't get a voucher. Like, yeah, those are all good points, Virginia. Those are all good points. So another thing I want to bring up, I want to give another example, because I know all of you are going to be back in the center very soon. So I also just want to give an example of, say that again?
Hopefully.
Yes, hopefully, right? You will be. So what I want to just say is there will be, you know, let's say you know another member, because I guess you can relate to this. Let's say you know another member, and you're concerned about them, and maybe they disclose to you that, you know, my son is always yelling and cursing at me. He steals my check the first of the month, you know, I got to give him money the first of the month when I get paid, because he knows I get paid, you know, I get my Social Security at that time. You know, what do, right? Where do you go? So I would say, if this person has told you what's going on, I would say, you know, you can definitely call 311 and make a report. I would also just say, and I know there are social workers on this call from Stanley Isaacs, I would say talk to someone in the social work team, you know, and just say, what can we do, you know? But I think it's important that the person knows what you're doing, because I think that this is such a unreported situation that I think just going without letting them know anything may not necessarily work. But I do think, like, you know, I know in the past, like, we've had some members who've been through elder abuse, and either they reported it to us or another agency was involved and we found that out. I would say you can always, you know, talk to someone on the team and bring it up and say what your concerns are. But I would also like encourage you to also call 311 and make a report as well if you're really very, very concerned about that person. Because there are a lot of different agencies that can help them. And the agencies, the way it is in elder abuse, the agencies all have to work together. I know, when I was at Isaacs, I worked with Carter Burden. I worked with another agency called Adult Protective Services. We had to work with the police at times. We all have to collaborate together because it's very much underreported and people are afraid to say anything and do anything.
Yes.
Yeah. So does anybody have any questions about that?
I have another another example to bring up, Rachel. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, Virginia.
Pity towards the abuser, pity, and not calling the police on them because you pity them. You understand? Pity.
A lot of people feel the way you do. I mean, I will say, with elder abuse, it's not like, it's not like a lot of other, let's say, crimes that happen. I know there have been situations where I've had to call the police, and if it's something like, let's say it's someone threatening someone, it's very hard for the police to really do anything. They can come in and they can give them a warning, but like a lot of times they're not necessarily going to arrest the person unless there's something they can prove is going on. And I just, as far as police is concerned, there are people who are domestic violence officers and they're trained to deal with elder abuse. So one of the things that, when I worked at the Department for the Aging, we used to work with domestic violence. And one of the things they would do is visit, the senior to make sure they're safe, to check in.
That's a good idea. That's what I was going to suggest. When that person, even though they don't know, they're afraid to report it, and even if you say something to them, they're still afraid. If you report it to the right sources, and is one thing the person going to get help from is somebody checking to see if they're okay, and then say, "I'll be back in another week or so to check on you again to see if you're okay." That would give the person a chance to know that somebody else is looking after her, even though she's afraid to say something. Especially with the home attendant agency, these people get so abused. I'm not saying that they get abused by the home attendants, because home attendants are abused too in some ways. But it's a shame how many people have problems with the services that they get, and they're afraid to say something because they think they're gonna lose their service, or they're not gonna be, or they're afraid that the person's gonna do something for them or to them before they leave. So that's really important. There's a lot of people in Benny Isaacs that have home attendants, and I really think there should be some kind of service that deals with home attendant problems. We never had that kind of service before, where you can actually go to a person that works in a center, and it doesn't have to be some Benny Isaacs, and say, "Listen, this agency sent me a home attendant who is very abusive. What can I do? Or what can I do with the home attendant that refuses to do anything but say today, I'm not here to do this and that, and they just want to watch children?"
Well,
so there's a lot of problems.
Lorraine, I want to just say that one of the things that can be done is you can speak with the coordinator, with their coordinator, their supervisor. The home attendant.
Yeah, that's the key. People are afraid to talk to call the supervisor or coordinator. They're afraid to even make the initial complaint about what's happening to them.
That's true.
So they think something's going to be taken away. The service is going to take it away from them. They won't have the home attendant anymore, even though the home attendant is abusing them. They won't have that anymore. So they'd rather not say anything. Let's try to take the abuse.
That's true. What you're saying is very true, but really, Lorraine, honestly, that's the best person to talk to, because I know we've had to do that in the past, where let's say that the home attendant was a problem or home health aide was a problem. we've had to go to the supervisor and they look into it. That's their job. They have to actually look into it. But I understand what you're saying, that people are reluctant to say anything.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that only makes it worse for the person. And reporting them and coming in and supporting them, the police, and they leave you alone, and makes it worse with that person, because you have to keep reporting them. And the only way you can do anything is by moving out, perhaps. But if not, it only
No,
makes
leave
it
the
worse.
person at the house. You have to move the person out the house, not moving out.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's like, and I know in Maritz's situation, unfortunately, that person, those people were actually on the lease, which made it even harder. And sometimes that kind of involves having to go to housing court to remove them from the lease.
I tried to apply for an emergency transfer for her in a senior building, but because she didn't report any domestic violence, you know, they say, oh, it's not an emergency. She will be in the waiting list.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Really
Yeah,
hard.
it's really hard. Without proof, you can move around because
All she has to do is make one report of domestic violence, and that one report will be investigated, and she can be moved under this system of circumstances where she's afraid to be where she is because of what's going on, and they will move them. They move people within 2 weeks that are having problems like that. If it's on paper reported, it has to be written up, reported to somebody. It can't just be say so. They don't go by say so. They go by paperwork.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, they need documentation. That's absolutely true, Lorraine. You're right. Yeah, that's important. And I think the challenge is, the biggest challenge I think people have, especially people who are social workers, is sort of helping, getting that person ready to actually do that. That's the challenge.
The literacy in the seniors also doesn't help because she doesn't know how to manage the recording and the phone and do that. And at the end, she said, oh, it's my daughter. I can't do something bad to her. Like the police gonna come and take her and,
Yeah.
It's
A lot of students really don't know their rights. Their rights of, these abusers and the situations that they going through. They don't know their rights. They think you have to just take it and suffer and just take it. They don't have to do that. They just have to get a little information behind them to know what they have the right. They have a right to be happy and be safe and not be harmed and not be hurting. They
That's
don't know that they
absolutely
have to do
true.
about it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
And that's why they need support. They need a lot of support.
Yeah.
And not only that, but when you grow older, you want the peace and quiet around you, just listen to, let's say, meditational music and not be bothered with even speaking. And it's so terrible that you're constantly being bothered by another person, and it's like wishful thinking that you had your own place and you could be still in it, clean when you want to clean, so many things that you can do alone, and yet you're never alone. They still rain on your parade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yes.
Terrible.
It's true. Well, let me just say, the fact that all of you are involved with Stanley Isaacs, that are members of the center, that really is an advantage for all of you because you get the opportunity to get out of the house, to socialize, to interact with different people, and you get to educate yourselves and learn new things. So that's really important. So don't take for granted that you guys, go to the center. It's really very, very valuable.
Yes.
Yeah, we wish it would hurry up and open up so we can go to it.
Yeah.
They don't know we're suffering in these apartments.
I know you guys can't wait. I know it's like the number one question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's
Rachel,
gonna
this
happen. It's gonna happen.
This is fantastic. And I just can't wait till you let us know what the next topic is up for discussion, because this is very helpful. And I appreciate you doing this workshop, and I really hope to hear from something else that you're going to be doing in the future. I really thank you.
I appreciate that, Lorraine. Thank you so much. It was great to have you on this call.
Thank you.
It was great to have all of you. Does anybody have any questions or any comments they want to make?
Cool. Keep cool. Under the circumstances, keep cool. Keep your cool.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I would just say, if you can get anything out of this, I would just say, it's important to check in on people to make sure they're doing okay. And we all have friends we talk to, and I know because this always happened when I was Department of the Aging, people that called and made the referrals, they knew the person very well. They knew what was going on. It wasn't like they didn't know. They knew, and the person would say, what was happening, but they were reluctant to make any kind of report. So I think a lot of the way that we can really help people is by giving them support, supporting them through what they're going through. So I think that's important. But I would also just say again, if you have anyone you're really concerned about, you should definitely contact 311 because they will have the appropriate agency look into what's happening, and you don't have to mention your name. You can be confidential. And they have a certain time they have to actually respond and figure out the best way to help the person. And again, if the example I gave, if let's say there's another member that that there's something going on, I would just say you can always reach out to the social work team. But I would also just say, I think you should definitely let the person know what you're doing. I don't think you should just do it behind their back because again, this is such a delicate issue. But I think that you should, definitely bring it to people, the staff's attention if you have concerns. That's what, the social work team is there for, to kind of help and give you some kind of guidance and, refer to resources. And like Maritza brought up, we work, Stanley Isaacs works very closely with Carter Burden, which is in the neighborhood. But if you live in another borough, you live somewhere else, there are other programs, and that's one of the reasons I'm saying call 311 as well, because there are other programs all throughout the city that help people who are victims of elder abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel.
Yes.
Rachel.
Yes.
Are you aware that there's a Carter Bergen on 99th Street between 2nd and 1st Avenues?
Yes.
Oh, you are? Oh, okay. Just out of curiosity.
Yes, that is the same. That's the same. I think that's the same place that I'm talking about. It's just because they have they have different programs, but they have an elder abuse program.
Ah.
It's the Cabello Center.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's right next to the hospital, right? Metropolitan Hospital.
I think so, yeah. I know it's in the Cabello
Center. That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody have any other thoughts or questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
You You're dealing with seniors who are abused. I mean, do you have a different approach, would say, for somebody in their 30s who's abused by spouse or child? I mean, or is it kind of the same approach?
That's a great question. The approach it is different.
Because it is
Honestly, there
something-
are less resources for older adults.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But one of the things, like, and this is why I'm bringing this up, is, you know, as long as the person is capable of making their own decisions, that they don't have anything, let's say, any kind of dementia or any kind of impairment, they are given the right to make their own decision. So the focus is just to the main focus is to make sure the person is safe where they are and that they know their options. That's the main focus, knowing their options and being safe.
So what's the difference between helping a person of a younger age?
Well, you know, one of the things is it's not that different because
Except they have more resources in that age group and other
there
age
are
groups.
more resources.
He's had the least
Yes.
amount.
There are,
And it's really
yes.
sad.
There
It's
are
really ridiculous.
definitely, yeah, there are definitely more resources. And, you know, one of the things that is done is that we refer, like I said, to programs like Carter Burden, which help older adults, and they can help them, let's say, get an order of protection. You know, they'll have domestic violence connect with them. But there are definitely more resources for younger people. But one of the things that we do is you know, people in elder abuse will make referrals to agencies to help them, to social workers to give them support, like Carter Burden, for example.
Mhm.
But you're absolutely right. There are a lot less resources for people that are older adults. And the thing is, elder abuse is actually, it is domestic violence. The difference is that it's for an older person. That's the only difference. It's just age. That's it.
Mhm.
But you're absolutely right. There are less resources, and that's always been a problem. I think elder abuse is like probably 20 years behind
Mhm.
domestic violence in terms of what resources are out there.
And the sad thing is that sometimes the elder are mentally disabled and can't do anything or report it or say what happened. They stay
Those
quiet,
are the people that
So,
will get the help.
Maritza,
More
Maritza,
than nothing.
very vulnerable.
I'm glad that you actually brought that up because that's just one quick thing I want to mention. If the person, let's say, is disabled or mentally disabled, I'm going to use mentally disabled, they cannot make their own decisions, then what happens is that they will try to help them get a guardian. So, you know, they're going to first evaluate them to see like how they are mentally, to see if they're able to make their own decisions. And if they cannot, then they will appoint a guardian. But that's really the last resort. That doesn't happen very often. You really do have to be impaired. Because you know, one of the things is that we want to protect people's ability to make their own decisions as much as possible.
I think that's why important, you know, to have your documents in order so that if something happens to you, you have somebody that can take care of you that you trust, like who you assign your power of attorney or whatever that is.
Yeah, that's a great point,
And
Denise.
it's not that easy to get that. It's not
That
that
is a
easy to get
great
that
point.
done either.
I mean,
not
it's
very
really
easy to get
easy.
that.
Power of attorney is an easy document to put together.
I know, but where do you get the paperwork from?
You can literally go to like a Dwayne Reed or CVS or one of those Staple and get like the paperwork, and you just have to have someone you trust, because it's very important, like what Denise is saying, it has to be someone that you trust to sign it and get it notarized. But yeah, it's easy to get that, to get a power of attorney. That I would recommend everybody on this call get a power of attorney, someone that you trust, and not only just power, because that's for financial, but also a healthcare proxy. for
Yeah.
medical
Yeah,
decisions.
that's what I was talking about, the healthcare property. I've been trying to get one for a while now. I really need one, a healthcare property. Every time I go in the hospital, I have to fill out a new one. I just think there should be one general one, that could be accessed in case, there's an emergency. But every time I go to the hospital, they want me to fill out a new one.
So you can talk to, I don't know if you're working with one of our social workers right now, but you can talk to one of our social workers and they can like help you with filling that out. Do you have someone in mind to be your healthcare proxy?
Of course,
Okay,
I have all the information. I just need to take the help with the paperwork to get it done.
yeah, that's not too difficult, you know. There's someone on this call, I'm sure, that can help you, you know, with that can help you fill out the paperwork, and you would just have to get that person to sign it, you know, and, you know, put their information on the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, thank you.
but I'm glad, Denise, that was great that you brought that up. That's very important, and, you know, that you mentioned that. I would recommend all of you get a power of attorney, get a healthcare proxy, you know, get these type of documents to protect yourselves. And when you get to a point where you're maybe not able to make decisions, then you have someone that you can trust, whoever that person is, to help you make decisions.
Okay.
Thank you. Very interesting webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Welcome.
Nice seeing you on here.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you, everyone. It's great. It's great seeing and hearing you all.
Yes, stay cool.
Stay cool.
Lorraine, I'm glad you're on.
Yes,
You
Lorraine, it's great you were on. It's all of you. It's really great that you were all able to come on.
Wow. I can't see anybody.
Okay, we can hear you though,
Because
Lorraine.
I can't do Zoom. I hope to do Zoom one of these days.
Mhm.
I'm getting all these alerts telling us to cut back on our power usage. Sounds like Con Ed's a little overloaded.
Oh,
Sure, yes.
oh boy.
Well, the people should know because this is not the first time we have a power failure during the heat waves. Everybody knows they can use the washing machines and the heavy equipment
Yeah, they may know, but do they care about it?
Yeah.
during the peak hours. You know, you have to do the wash, so you should do it at night of the peak hours and try to control your electric. Also, most of people don't know that the electricity has different prices. If you use the electricity during the peak hour, it's more expensive
Yes.
than during the off hours.
Oh, wow.
A lot of
I
people,
didn't know that.
they
Wow,
no.
Thank you for the information.
that's very useful. Yeah, yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
So if you can afford to do your laundry in the evening, don't do it during the day. Or do it very early in the morning or in the evenings. And the microwave also pull a lot of electricity. That's how they recommend the microwave to be plugged to a protector, so it doesn't pull from the main. It doesn't affect the main. It turns off by itself. It's a protector.
great, great tips.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I don't know, Gemma, but I think if no one has anything else to say, I just want to thank each and every one of you for attending.
Oh, I have a question. How much
Thank you.
does the center have right now?
How much what?
How much? What?
Capacity. Did they have the situation where they turn back people?
I know there's a capacity depending on the dining rooms. Like the dining room, I think says it on the calendar they usually send out. I think let me check. Gemma just recently sent one.
The
Because I
capacity of the dining
go
room
away
is
and I go
100.
return back.
I think it's about 13 people, if I'm correct, for like bingo. So the dining room has a specific space, and then depending on how they have to set up that space will determine the limited capacity. I know it's never more than 20 people at a time. So I would say around 13 to
But
on
are
average.
we supposed to be opening full soon?
Say it again, Larry.
Are we supposed to be opening soon full capacity?
I think it's opening in phases. Don't quote me on that, but it's opening in phases. Like next month we'll have probably more capacity. But just pay attention to Gemma's statements and what she puts out in emails. And
I
that'll
know some places are open at 50% capacity.
A lot of places are open full. Denny Isaac is the only one that's really closed down. Just opening a couple of lunches a day. Come on now, they gotta go to the center.
it's gonna take some time before slowly peeling back as much as possible. I think if you've noticed when you walk into the center, we are still fixing up certain areas in order to make it more.
Yeah, but they have all these months to do it, 16 months. And then the last couple of months, they knew it was going to be open soon. And they should be working on it. They should be working on it now, and nobody's in there working on it. There's still junk all around. Things are not organized. The place is not clean. It's so ridiculous.
I know, Lorraine. It's frustrating, especially like Rachel said, everybody wants to be in there. Everybody wants to start talking, but just know that when I'm there and all the.
I'm trying to place else to go because this is really ridiculous. I don't think at the rate they're going, they're going to be open in October, December when it's cold outside.
Lorraine, like I tell you, when I'm there, I try my best to do what I have to do to make sure we open up quicker. When I
I
open
can
up,
do it right now, okay.
capacity gets bigger.
Finish, she's almost finished.
I'll stay on top of it with the rest of the team. All right, we'll make sure you get back in there. As everybody knows, I'm there Monday and Tuesdays. I'll be here next week. I'll be at the center next Thursday. If you need, we have walk-ins again Monday through Thursday. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday we have walk-ins from 2 to 4, and Wednesday Gloria has walk-ins at 9 to 11. So
Are you closed on Monday?
Monday we're closed, yes, for.
Uh-huh.
But any other day, you need something, we're there. And if you have any.
When you say walk in, you mean walk in and walk out, and walk into what?
Walk-ins are like before, just like before with the social workers. You get to talk to them for 15 minutes. Usually max is 15 minutes. We'll talk.
I'm not talking about that. I mean, when we can walk in to be part of something.
I'll say it again.
Oh, she said to be
I'm
part of
talking about-
something. I think she means like
To walk in to
activities.
be-
Activities, no.
Yeah.
Activities on. So Gemma, like I said, releases a calendar every morning for people who are part of that email chain, and it'll tell you the limited capacity depending on the activity. What I'll do is also, I know she's working on getting like a physical calendar ready, so when people come in, she can give it to them. Of course, it's just easier to change things when it's electronically if things change last minute. But she is working on making sure there's like a paper copy so people know what to expect. Now, when you walk into the center, like we said, you can walk in. There's a board just like before where it tells you, what activities are for that day. And we're working on getting a TV set up there that shows you, the changes and the emails that Gemma sent and getting Zoom meetings. So let's say you don't have access to Zoom meetings and you've been having trouble to use your phone. There'll be a TV there.
That's all nice and good and very, very helpful. But all I'm interested in is the center opening. I really care about what happens in 1 minute and 15 minutes. Like when it's open up, that's the only thing I'm interested in. I know people are interested in about the 15 minutes and about the lunch and this and that. I just want to know when it's going to open.
Well, I'll keep you updated, man. I'll keep you
Thank you. I appreciate that because I'm getting very nervous.
I know.
I'm getting very upset. I'm getting very upset in this room with nothing to do.
There are already exercise classes. There's one on Monday, a little rigorous on Monday, and then
Yes, you have Zoom. I don't have Zoom.
no, these are at the
I
center.
told you.
Oh, Lorraine, you can walk this.
Center.
Oh, yeah.
They're at the
You're not
center.
listening to me because I'm just upset because the center's not open. So anything you say is not going to help, soothe me.
Well, Lorraine,
Anything you say is not going to help to soothe me because I'm just upset because the center
I
is
know.
still closed.
Well, Lorraine, like I said, we'll catch up next Thursday, and I'll bring you up to speed with how the activities and all that stuff works, and getting you physical.
Okay, so I'm going to wait next Thursday. Not about nobody. If I come to the center, get no lunches or nothing. I'll be very patient next Thursday.
I know.
Very patient.
I'll be there. You know, I got you.
Okay. You got my back, right?
Yeah.
Albert has your back.
Sit on a green chair.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold out. The next Thursday.
But it is nice to see.
Lorraine, you heard me?
What?
Sit on the green chair
Yeah.
and wait, and wait.
Yeah, no. Marie's a regular one that comes in now during the weeks, and I usually chat with her a bit. But it's nice seeing you guys when you guys do sit there, and it feels like old times, just see you guys chatting about it and connecting with you when I can. It is a different energy than working from home.
Who's that talking?
Oh, that's
Who was just talking?
Albert.
I know Albert's voice. Who was just talking?
Oh, Maria to
Just
this.
one.
Maria Tedesco.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you guys can come in the center and chat, sit on those chairs, and you're always welcome. And there's also activities like Denise said. So, we're there, we're moving about, and hopefully more, we're having conversations with Greg and everybody to make sure, we reach a safe capacity that everybody feels, safe around. So we're staying on, all right?
Okay. I'll wait till next Thursday.
Mm.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and your patience. Appreciate it.
I'll be right there with you.
Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome, everyone.
Okay.
Hi, Miss Gloria. I know you were part of the call as well.
Yes, I'm just listening to everybody.
And Flora, good to see you too. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing good now.
Good.
I'm relieved now. I hope you would come back on and give another workshop again, Rachel.
So,
Yes.
Yeah, that would be my pleasure. Definitely. Yes.
Yes, and it's good to see you, and I'm happy that you came back to work with us.
Absolutely. I listen, Stanley Isaacs, you guys are family.
Yes.
You guys are family. So it's always a pleasure. Definitely.
All right.
Yes. Great seeing all of you. How are you, Elba? You're good?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I hope to see the rest of my family soon. Okay. I gotta go do my exercise now. It's almost 5:30.
Bye.
Everybody have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Goodbye.
qué lindo se ve eso, ¿verdad?
Bye, Maria.
Everybody take care. And thank you, Rachel, again. And
Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you, Rachel.
Rachel,
Bye. Bye,
Rachel.
Maria.
hey, I want to speak to you.
Oh, she wants a private session.
Oh, you want to speak to me? Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right. I'll stay on.
Bye-bye. Stay cool out there.
Okay.
Too.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Ay, ese todo el mundo. No,
I think there's still people on the call, but what did you want to tell me something private?
yeah.
There's still people on the call though, Maria. So I have your number though. I'll call you.
Yeah, it's something briefly that I want to tell you,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So whenever you can, I would appreciate it.
Sure.